All right, everybody, welcome to the on-demand version, long interview style of Too Many Men on the Mic. This is a new horizon for us here, Drew. We're venturing into some uncharted territory, but I think it's good territory, and it's gonna be some great content for our audience.
I would say we're an OT.
Yeah, dude. That's it. We're in sudden death overtime. Well, today we've got Rich Hansen joining us from USA Hockey. Now, Rich is player development manager with New York and the Atlantic districts. He currently resides in Indianapolis, but he's an East Coast guy by heart. He's also the general manager for the U17 select team. And he's been that for the last 4 years. For our audience, I know we don't talk a lot about select and elite players, but I think that there's going to be some great perspectives and some parallels that we can talk about because the U17 team is a unique animal in USA Hockey, and we'll let Rich talk about it. But it really is built with a lot of folks and a lot of players who, are still on their journey and maybe quite haven't hit that sweet spot where they're going to the national team or they're doing some of those other high level. But what Rich is going to help share with us is a little bit about how whether you're a B level player or a AAA level player, that journey is a continuum, and there's no where you are today does not define you. Outside, he's also focusing on player development. He works heavily with small groups in determining the at-large picks for the both Tier 1 and Tier 2 brackets. And from 13 over to 18U in the last 5 years, they've had some Tier 2 at-large picks. It works a little bit differently than Tier 1. We'll talk about that. He's also big into the high school, high school and hockey nationals. And again, I think that he's going to be a great resource for our audience here today, and we'll have some great perspectives and some parallels that we can draw for hockey players and hockey coaches of all stripes. So, you know, without further ado, Grant, let's bring in Rich. And Rich, I don't know if you got a chance to hear that. It was, I hope we didn't build you up too much, but welcome to Too Many Men on the Mic, on-demand special. You've got Coach Jared and Coach Drew here. Welcome, man. Appreciate you being on the phone with
thanks,
us.
guys. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to meet both of you.
Yeah. Hey, before we get started, give us a little bit more in depth. I know you're currently in Indianapolis. You've got some kids that play hockey like all of us. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with USA Hockey and kind of where your main focus lies right now.
Yeah, so just real like you mentioned, I grew up on the East Coast in Long Island, New York. Played college hockey at Mercyhurst University. Obviously, I've always had a passion for the sport. And then got a little bit into the pro hockey. Absolutely loved it. Just delaying the inevitable of getting a job. Met a lot of good people, but you can kind of see it like it may be time to end this. And I ended up in Colorado Springs, and then found a job at USA Hockey. I actually started out in the adult hockey world, which was it is what it was. Adult hockey. I was running around doing clinics for adults and then running tournaments, and I had an absolute blast doing that. I mean, the clinic aspect of it was fantastic. I mean, these people I thought it would be more of a joke, and I remember my first day was like, hey, you're gonna do chalk talk for adults. I'm like, for adult hockey players, really? And I put it on, and these people were like, the questions they were asking me, I was like, wow, these people were engaged. I mean, doctors, lawyers, teachers, and they had a passion for hockey. They wanted to get better, and all of them were beginners. And I just had a blast doing it. And then had an opportunity to work on the player development side, more of the youth hockey side. And it's been great ever since. I took over as the New York Atlantic District. About 10 years ago. I was living out in Colorado, so constantly traveling out there. And then my wife ended up getting a job in Indianapolis. So started making my trek closer to the East Coast. I'm not quite there yet, but a lot closer than Colorado. So, and then now I'm currently here in just a town called Westfield, Indiana. And I'm a 10U coach right now for the Indiana Fuel Tier 2 team.
Nice. Full-size hockey. Full ice hockey.
Full size. Yeah. None of that cross ice. I will say the hockey director here, they do an unbelievable job. We have a mini rink that's about 5 minutes from our house. That's where all the 8U games are, and they're absolutely fantastic. The kids love it, and it's been really good.
we've got a local mini rink here that actually doubles as a pickleball court in the summertime. And the organization that Drew and I used to be on the board for, they do all their 8U and 6U stuff out there as well. It's a great atmosphere, and it's a lot easier than putting those temporary boards up, which your toes are at risk every time you mess with those. So.
You lose a finger on those.
You go to kick them and they're frozen on the ice, and then I've seen some guys take some falls. But I was talking with someone yesterday. I mean, if you have those mini rinks are fantastic, but we never heard really any complaints as you do around the country. And I think the biggest issue is not really the size; it's the aesthetics of using the padding. And I think parents just feel it's Mickey Mouse, but we have 2 benches, a score clock, and we really hear nothing. And I love it. So.
It's interesting. You started off on the adult side. Drew and I both have, we both play men's league hockey now because that's where everybody ends up. But it's funny because I have a story where when I was coaching, you had parents who the only point of reference they have is watching NHL. And if they've not played before, their expectations for their kids is a little bit out of whack. And what we found here in St. Louis, we have a program for adult hockey called Winterland Hockey that's run by a great hockey guy named Kevin Whitworth. And some of these parents, we may have had a little bit of maybe you should go try hockey. And next thing you know, they go out for Winterland, they come back and like, I'm never, ever, ever dogging my kid again.
Yeah.
So
we've done a couple. When I had this job in youth, I was in California. Me and a colleague ran like a station-based practice for adults, and they had a whole new perspective. And it was, I mean, we gave them way more break time than we would give obviously an 8U player, but I think it gave them a new perspective of, wow, we're in the play all the time, and all the stuff that we promote from USA Hockey and why we think it's beneficial. But you're right, from just watching sometimes in the stands rather than actually experience it's a huge difference, and it gives them a whole new perspective.
Well, Rich, we've got an audience that is everything from moms and dads trying out adult hockey, like we were just talking about, to players all the way from, at least in St. Louis where we're based, they're A, B, and C level players is how we frame them. But then they'll go all the way up to AA hockey. That's all in it. What USA Hockey, I think, would frame as a tier 2 bucket. But in talking with Jared and looking at your information, you do a lot of great things around player development. And knowing that our audience out there is C-level players wanting to get to B and B to get to A and A to AA, I'm excited to hear your insight on how some of your higher level hockey things can help apply to our audience. So where do you want to start from an aspect of talking to players? And then we can probably dig into the coaching part as well.
Yeah, I mean, for players, all players typically at a younger age, they have a dream. I don't think as parents and adults, we take that away, but I think it's important for adults to keep things in perspective while allowing our kids to dream big. I think that's really important. But I mean, if you want to start at the younger ages, and I'll make that comparison to the higher level players that we see, but it's really for them, it's just to build a passion for the sport of hockey. Because what we see at the older levels, everybody's skilled when you get to that level, that high level. They can all skate really fast. They shoot the puck 1,000,000 miles per hour. They can stick handle like you wouldn't believe. But it's those players that have that internal motivation to get better on their own. They are really just obsessed with getting better. There's an obsession. It's not like I just love hockey, but they're obsessed about the process to get better. And not a lot of kids have that right away, but I think coaches can help guide that a little bit and instill that in the younger players as they go through their path. And it's really not giving up, sticking with it, because some kids will face that adversity early on where you maybe get cut from a team. And there's some kids that it takes all the way till they're 18 to get, to feel that adversity because they've always been on the best team, and you see it. And, when players don't make it, everyone has a decision to make after that. Like, what are you going to do? Right. Like, everybody can say, poor me, and pout and say, it was this person's fault, that person's fault. And there's other players that turn around and say, hey, I'm going to dig in. I'm going to go back. I'm going to continue the process and get better and come back. And we being at, seeing it at our camp level, it happens all the time. We're blown away. I'm always blown away when I look at players in the NHL and go, oh my God, I cannot believe that guy is there, or vice versa, because you just didn't see it then, but they had that, a good support, whether it's their parents, nowadays, agents or family advisors, whatever it is, a support friends, that can help drive and motivate and keep that player going. But yeah, it's really, I think, just building that passion and love for the game, which I think we have. But when you get to that higher level, it's almost an obsession, I think some of the great
Yeah.
players have. Yeah, and you could definitely see a difference in some of those guys.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I had a chance to coach. I've coached, and so has Drew. I've coached with current and former NHL players, and you get a chance to talk with them, and it's almost like they don't quite understand what it's like not to be obsessed with the sport.
Mhm.
When I had a chance to coach with he's still a current NHL player. He's just moved down from St. Louis. He would mention that he had a stick in his hand every waking moment. And you
Yeah,
think about that when kids are playing video games or when they're doing some other things, they're trying to get better. And I think that there are definitely um, there's phases of it, so to speak. I mean, like not every. I think I read the other day that of the big four sports, the NHL is the hardest to make pro.
I did see
It is,
that.
yeah, I saw they're the hardest to make pro. So I think that there's some, so then this actually leads into how do you keep a dream and how do you keep a positive, like, as kids are going from 10, 11, 12 as a coach, but also keeping them grounded and keeping that perspective. What are some things that as a coach, promotion versus prevention perhaps is a way to put it, but like, how do you do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I think. I mean, for me as a coach, and obviously every coach is different. It's really how do you build confidence, right, in your players. I've seen a lot of really good players when they lose confidence, that their game just goes south, and it's really to kind of keep that confidence, keep that belief, and inspire as a coach, right? But also letting them know that this what are you doing? Is it the nutrition, getting your sleep, all that other stuff? And I'm obviously geared towards when we're talking the higher level player, because I think that's where you kind of asked the question. But um, all that stuff, and having them understand that it's a process and it's just not going to happen tomorrow, right? It's this right now, where you are right now, whether you're the best player in the team, the worst player, wherever you lie, it is just a snapshot in time. All right. And then they have to understand like the work that goes into it. And I think it looks different at every age, right? Like I'm dealing with 10-year-olds, and I think I'm giving the greatest speech in the world, and then I get some ridiculous question that I'm like, did you not hear what I just, you know what I mean? Like I always catch myself. I'm just constantly like driving home, and I'd be like, I cannot believe that kid just asked that. And then you got to sit back and the kid's 9 years old, and what motivation looks like for them is going to look different than what motivation is for a 16-year-old kid. So it's
It
really
happens at
understanding the
19
age.
too.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody, boss at work, Bob, you guys who know Bob, he always
Right.
says, every player is an experience, experiment of one, meaning just everyone's different, and they're at a different point in their life. And, you have to understand that as a coach, where each player is. And I think it's just getting to know them, and they have to understand that you truly, truly care about them as an individual, not just the hockey part of it, but as an individual. Because a lot of these kids now are faced. I mean, I feel like when I was growing up, I didn't know anything. Like there was no social media. I felt like we were just like dumb to everything. And we were just going out playing hockey. It was fun, but kids have access to like all this information, and there's kids that are ranked, and there's a lot of things exterior outside the rink that can affect their confidence. And I think it's important for a coach to understand that these kids are people, and there's other stuff going on in their life, and to show that you truly care about them as a person is really, really important for their growth and development.
I love what you just said about the rankings, because my youngest is a 14-year-old at home, and I'll hear at least once a week from him some kind of ranking that he's rattling off. A couple weeks ago, we had the leader of the Swedish hockey program on, and he was saying, I think with confidence, your development journey is not done until you're 23. So back to realizing where you are in the moment and the snapshot piece. Look, you can look at a ranking. That is today's ranking. That doesn't mean anything beyond today. But, getting a young kid to understand that, easy for us to say as full-grown adults, but when you're young and impressionable and looking at information and looking at rankings, I think that's a really good point you made about access to information, and these kids are bombarded by it today.
Oh, it's nonstop, and you're right. It's really tough. No matter what you say, they're constantly. I mean, you just go on a website and you can just type in a birth year, and they'll have the players ranked. And if you're constantly seeing that as a kid, so I really think it's important for us as coaches to kind of stay away. It's nearly impossible to get them off that. Obviously, they're going to see it, but to just understand that we care about you as a person, and then we're going to help you get better and reach your goals, and just get them to believe that it's possible. Easier said than done, but I think really, really important.
Well, I think we mentioned yesterday in our show prep that we're unabashed thieves here as coaches, and one of the things that Drew and I are personally going through right now is we're coaching a high school team. And
Okay.
at any given time throughout the past, over the summer, as we were running the development program and as we were getting into the season, at any given time, we're going to have a kid out there, and this is no exaggeration, who is going to the OHL or going to the USHL. And then we have a kid out there who wants to contribute at their highest capacity, but they're just not there yet on their journey. And there's two unique challenges there. On the one side, you're trying to make that, future USHL player or OHL player be a part of this team and keep their frustration in check. But on the other, it's like, how do you build this, plan or create an environment that motivates that lower level player to get to to fill their cup up as much as they possibly can, and that's something that I think coaches deal with that at every level, with different intensity and different age groups. But it's interesting, especially here in Missouri with our high school teams, how it is so diverse of a population. It truly is like a little league team almost. How would you deal with something like that?
Yeah, so that's interesting you say that, because all over the country, and I work, I'm a liaison on the high school section, so I see high school hockey all over the country. Obviously, Minnesota being the pinnacle where they're able to get a lot of their best players to play high school hockey, which is awesome. And to be honest with you, if we had a model like that across the country, I love high school hockey, because you can go to some of the weaker high schools and the rinks are packed. The energy, it's absolutely fantastic. But we dealt with that a little bit. I coached high school hockey in Colorado. We didn't cut anybody from the team. We actually formed a JV team because the spread in talent was, like, to your point, we had AAA kids on our team, and then we had kids kind of just starting. So how do you run a practice like that? We felt keeping more kids within that practice, and we ran a station base because we didn't want that AAA player playing against that weaker player just to destroy their confidence. But yeah, it was difficult. So we ran our high school practice with 30 kids on the ice. We just kept everybody, and we thought by keeping everybody that we had a big enough pool of those newer players that they can compete against each other and improve, because you want to be challenged, but you also don't want a level of failure that's almost like they're looking at, like, saying, this is impossible. I'm never gonna beat this guy. So that's kind of how we got around it, is we didn't cut anybody. We just kept everybody, rather than having like our lower level players just kind of off by themselves.
But I love what you said there, real quick. I love what you said there about, station-based play. Did you run practices was the entirety of practice around station-based play, or did you pick a specific concept or something that you want to accentuate where you could bring all those kids together? Let those maybe players that need more development have an opportunity to play against those higher level players without squashing their confidence.
Yeah, so it was a mixture. So it's a good question. It was a mixture where we didn't keep them separated in the sense that they didn't feel part of the team. It was important for us to say, hey, this is our, this is it was Air Academy in Colorado. And we say this is our team. Even though we had them split, we kind of made some of them play in the JV just so they got reps and games, and those weaker level, maybe fourth line players, they were the first line when they went and played JV. And what the cool part about that for me is that they're, when you're a fourth line player, you kind of know your role, and what they get out there, they work hard. But now they're taking a leadership role. And as an individual, we thought that was important when they would jump down with the JV team, and you saw them take that role. They're running the stretch before, and I thought it was really, really cool. So we had the opportunity. We would say, hey, we're just going to take this one team, and the rest of the kids, you guys are done. But we were like, you know what? We can run an effective practice with 30 plus kids on the ice. We're going to do that, and we're going to be very intentional. And there was some mixture to answer your question, Drew. Like, where some of those weaker kids, they were in there competing against those better kids. And you know what? I thought that was fine, but it was a healthy balance. I thought where they
Yeah.
had success, and then we put them in an environment where it was extremely hard, and we thought that was really important. But I thought our leaders on the varsity team were really, really good working with these kids, and
Yeah.
I thought we built a pretty good culture for everybody, that they felt comfortable, they understood where they were, and I really loved the idea that we had that JV varsity and we all kind of worked together. So that worked for us. I'm not saying that's going to work everywhere, but seeing how high school hockey is, because I know in the Atlantic District, the northern part, I believe, doesn't allow their AAA players to play in high school, where
It's like
down south
Michigan.
down south they do. So when sometimes when you have that, there's a pretty big disparity to what you're talking about, Jared, in terms of,
Yeah.
your higher level player and you have a pretty, a weaker level player. So
It's I'm so glad to hear you expand on this because, one of the things that Drew and I are a part of with the high school team that we're coaching with in that organization, the other coaches, is trying to build this culture.
mhm.
And, I have a philosophy that no matter what your skill level, you can always forecheck. I mean, we can figure
Yeah,
something out, and what we're finding, similar to what you're saying, is we call them swing players here in Missouri that play on both teams. But we're even having, we're trying to get some of these varsity, high level players to come to the practices, and it's amazing how they do. And I think they
yeah,
actually enjoy some of the station work because they're not necessarily used to it when they go back and play with their clubs, and they come in here, and we're constantly getting the, hey, one more rep, one more rep.
yeah,
But where we had some struggles over the summer was, some of those kids who were clearly, they were going to play hockey after high school, or they were going to go
mhm,
somewhere, as they got 16, 17, 18, keeping them, um you know getting them to be engaged and getting them to be, additive to the culture, instead of, like, creating the situation where it's like, we're trying to help these kids who are, the fourth liners or are on the JV team, or we want them when they're juniors and seniors to be full-fledged varsity players. How do we help them on that journey? And, I'd be interested to see, because you had mentioned having good leaders. What are some things that you do in the environment to motivate them? Because I don't think you can motivate a person. You have to kind of motivate the environment and see what they do, see how they
see what
react.
they do. Yeah, again, I think it's constant communication with those players. I believe, it's talking to them. It's setting a standard, because you really mentioned culture, and what is culture. People, I think, toss
Mm,
that word around. I just think it's the standard you really hold for your team. And the key is how do you get buy-in, and especially because once you get it from your leaders on your team, I think it's a home run. And then as a coach, you can kind of sit back and just watch it happen. And I think that's when you get your win. It's tough getting there. Um, but yeah, I mean, kids, I think they want to be challenged. The better players, they want to be coached hard. And again, as a coach, I think you have to identify which players you can coach hard, which ones need a little bit. We have to pull back. um, but I think the best players want to be coached hard, and hopefully they buy into that culture, and it's really holding them accountable. And I think when the weaker players may see that, I think that can lift everybody up. But yeah, it's difficult. I mean, I don't know if I answered the question great, but um, because I think everybody kind of has that challenge with that one off. But I think you're right. It is a group effort, really.
Yeah, and
I know.
I guess what I would just add to that I think there's a responsibility. There is an inherent responsibility, and then it needs to be communicated to those leaders. Look, we know that you're a highly skilled player. You know it. We can see it, and actually, your teammates can see it. But realize that you're a model. Believe it or not, there are kids that are out on the ice that don't have as much skill as you, and you might not realize this, but they want to be like you.
Yeah.
They really do. They want to be like you. So absorb that, take that in, and then realize that what comes with that is a little bit of a responsibility as a leader that you need to help along with the coaches. And
Yeah.
and with that is hey, you know what, I was watching you in the drill and I saw you do that. That was a good approach. Try this. I've experienced this before, and I've tried this, and it worked out well for me. And then decide if you want to add that in on your next rep. That's probably a little bit utopia like. That would be, great if everybody would do it. But I think we've been spending a little bit of time with some of those players saying, look, you are really skilled, but I found when you say to those kids, you probably don't realize it, but a lot of these kids want to be like you.
Yeah.
And their eyes, and they're like, wow, really? Yeah. Yeah, they do. Let's try to help these players out.
I think that could be actually super powerful, Drew. Like I think sometimes too, as coaches, we just assume players possibly know that maybe.
Right.
And I think coming from a coach, by you telling a player, "Hey, these players look up to you as a leader," I mean that player could be like, "Really? And then to
Right.
your point, gives that person a little bit of ownership and responsibility to say, "Oh, I you know." So yeah, it's a really good point. I think that just comes down to that communication piece and actually allowing, I don't want to say just always your older players, but the players that other players look up with, because I think as a coach you can kind of identify that, but also letting them know is extremely important. That's, hey, this is what we're seeing, and you're someone that they look up to, and when you're sloughing off, they follow you, and giving them that responsibility I think is extremely powerful.
Did you ever did you ever work with any of those leaders? Just out of curiosity, Jared, you're probably thinking of this too. Do you ever let them have a hand in developing practice?
Yeah, so we've I wouldn't say developing practice. I don't want to sound like I mean, again,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm with 10-year-old players, but for our 10U team, we'll say, hey, what do you guys want to do? Or you have one kid, get up there and try to explain a drill. But
I guess I was
yes, I know
referring
what you
more
said.
to the high school players, the older players.
Yeah.
Did you ever go to those high school players and say, try to get their buy-in? Develop's not the right word, but taking those leaders, knowing that there's some inherent responsibility, and then saying, well, here's what we're thinking. If you could pick one drill, what would you want to work on, or what do you think the team needs to work on, or where do you think what kind of concept? I'm just curious.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have done it before where the first 15 minutes, hey, you guys got this. And because I think the key is, and I said it before, is when you have those guys, your leaders, step up, it makes it so much easier for the coach. Now you can just coach. Now you're just, you're moving players around, you're running practice, you're engaging and motivating. But when the leaders step up and you give them ownership and they identify themselves as the leaders in the room, and they're bought into the culture and they bring it every day, I mean, that's a home run, I think, for a coach. So I think, yeah, I mean, like anytime you just talk, hey, where are we at right now as a team? What do you feel? Just
Right.
to ask them that empowers them to say, wow, the coach cares, and they respect what I'm going to say. It's not like you're standing up saying, I got all the answers. You're genuinely curious what they think. They're in the locker room and they might have a different perspective or different feel. And to show them that you respect their answer, or a couple of them, you bring them aside as a group and, hey, where are we at right now? What do you think the team needs right now? I think is really, really powerful in terms of building your relationship with those guys, but also giving them ownership and confidence in their response is huge. So we have done that. I'm a big believer in
I
those.
absolutely love that.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in I mean, you try to act like that with everybody. You're always, hey, how are things going? How are things cool? I try to grab a kid and just, talk to them. What are things going on? What's, just to kind of show them that I care more about what's going on outside of the ice rink. But I think as you get older, you have a leadership group. It doesn't have to be C and A. It's that leadership group they have that a little bit different relationship with.
I absolutely love that, and going to the kid and asking them what they think. And I think, we've got a good coaching crew from our varsity to our JV to our B team. And we're actually trying to dip in even to the middle school kids and getting them exposed and having them come out to JV practice, once a month just to skate. And again, our varsity team, we make the seniors drive the freshmen and sophomore to workouts and practices, and it just
Oh,
you kind of
nice.
force the issue for them
Mhm.
to do that. I want to transition a little bit because when we were doing our conversation before the show, I don't think a lot of people understand about the U17 select team and what that is compared to like the NTDP or the U18 World Juniors. And I think you had mentioned things that I think are applicable to even the lower levels, where it's like some of these kids eventually get to pass the quote unquote superstars at that age. So talk a little bit about what USA Hockey's doing with the U17 select team and the Five Nations tournament. I think that would be very interesting for the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So, those who don't know, the National Team Development Program that's housed in Plymouth, Michigan. It's a two birth year. So this year upcoming will be the 2009s and 2008s. I could be mistaken by that, but it's a two birth year thing, and that's usually picked. You have 2 years there, and you play a Division I college schedule along with the USHL. And what the Five Nations team is that I hate using the term the second team, but all those kids would go to our 16 national camp that's hosted in Buffalo. And it starts at our district level, right? Our districts will have their camps, and you kind of work your way up through a series of tryouts through either your state and your district, and you end up in Buffalo at our national camp. And there's 216 players there. And then from that camp in Buffalo, we will pick the Five Nations team to go play in an international event. And the reason why this exists, it's really because our player pool is so big now, and that's a good thing. That's I'm sure when Rod Braceful is selecting the players to attend the National Team Development Program, it's a really, really difficult thing to do, right? Because you're kind of projecting who's going to be an NHL or who's going to do this in 2 years, and we have the ability now to select a team to have some international experience, because we know as an NGB that a lot of those players that make that Five Nations team are going to play on a World Junior team, play on a World Junior Championship team, a Junior A Challenge team, a Hlinka team, a World Championship team. And there's going to be players that don't make any of those and end up in the NHL. It happens all the time. And again, when we select that team, it's really to give them an experience of what international hockey's like, what it means to wear the USA Hockey logo, to play for something bigger than yourselves. And so when they do get asked to play it, in a bigger event, it's not their first time. We just think that experience is really, really key to their development. But I mean, every year we have to do it. We have 216 kids in a room. We're selecting 40 kids for an all-star game. And then right after that, those 40 kids go down to 20. And for a lot of them, it's all these kids have been the top kids in their program. And it could be the first time for some of them not getting selected. And it's really key. We're not cutting any of these kids, right? We're just not selecting them for what we think is the best team that's going to help us out in 3 weeks. That's all it is. It's like I said before, it's a snapshot in time. We're taking 20 kids that we think they're going to help us be successful in 3 weeks. And we know for sure there's kids that aren't going to make this team that are going to bypass other kids, bypass kids in the program. So we really leave them with that message to, what's your decision when you leave here, right? Are you upset? Well, yeah, we hope you're upset because you're a competitor at nature, and we want you to go home and then prove us wrong when you come back, that we made a mistake, right?
Yeah.
So I love when guys come back and they blow, when they come back for the 17, you have now a chance to make what they call the to play for a team in the Hlinka Gretzky tournament, which we just won this year, which was a
Yep.
massive win. I don't think some people realize when they see it, because this is excluding all our national team development programs that are at the time are, quote unquote, our best players. And in that event, they're playing against Canada, Sweden, Finland, and these are their big boys. I mean, these are like these are their guns. Like you'll see Canada's team. There's a ton of first rounders, and we had a team of kids that not only did not make the NTDP for whatever reason, they show up, put the jersey on, and go and win that event. It's a big deal. So we're extremely proud of that group and what they accomplished. But that's kind of what the U17 is and what that's about. But I'm very fortunate enough to be there in the 5 countries. It's Switzerland, Czech, Slovakia, us, and Germany. And we do that every year.
Drew, that Halinka Cup, that was being broadcast live while I was at level 5 back.
Yes, that's right.
We have a running joke here. Drew couldn't go to level 5 this year, so I always give him grief about it. So we were all going nuts about it.
Oh yeah, it was awesome.
I love to talk about the 5 nations. Quick brag, my older boy was up in Buffalo last year for the U17 national training camp.
Nice.
One of those 200 plus kids, and he just had a fantastic experience. They all stay together off campus. I heard a lot of great stories about just the kids getting along and spending time together, whether it was throwing a football, playing pickleball, whatever.
Yeah.
And he wasn't one of the kids that was selected to the all-star team. But I loved how you framed that. You hope they come back and they're hungry and they want to do more. And I know he came back from that saying that was a great experience, and it really lit a fire. So great stuff you're doing there.
Yeah, that's good. Well, did he play at 16s also, or no?
No, he did not have an opportunity to play at 16s, but he played at 17s.
All right, there you go.
Well, and I think let's put that in perspective for our parents and players who, I was gunning for A1 or I was gunning for A2, and it didn't happen this year, and I'm a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old. I mean, I think the lesson is the same whether you are a future NCAA D1 player or whether you're going to be the first round draft choice of your men's league team when you're 18. and my biggest thing that I've always said and I think I mentioned to you, Drew and I were on a hockey board for almost a decade together. The number one job of coaches is to make sure they're coming back next year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and so what are some, I know we're getting close to your time here. And again, we can't thank you enough for being on. But what are some words of wisdom that, coaches, parents, and players can all take and how they define their own success? What are some things that, you would leave with them before we head off here?
Yes, it's not that I think it's more of, how you treat it throughout the season or their entire career, right? Like there's so much pressure now on kids. I think kids are smarter than we give them credit for. I can use my son as an example. I think he understands that I really like hockey and I think he's always trying to impress me. And I always have to take a step back and I want to make sure it's his journey. And I'm just kind of there as as a bank, just kind of keeping them grounded and helping them stay confident, keeping the dream alive. But again, they have enough pressure from what we talked about before, from online, their friends, all these other variables. I think it's just important for us to say, hey, you know what? I love watching as a parent. I love watching you play. I love watching you work hard and compete and really having that growth mindset. It's not treating them any differently if they play bad or they play well. You treat them the same, right, after a game, because you don't want your relationship with your child to be dependent on how well they play their game, right? I love you the same no matter what. I love you I love you the same no matter what. And you know what, you're proud of them, right? Wherever they end up. So I think that's extremely important coming from a parent, because I do think there's a lot more pressure now than there ever was. The price of hockey is only going up. I think kids understand that their parents are making sacrifices. There's an investment, so you have that pressure, and you just have to really show that you're proud of them. and you love when the effort that they put in. So it sounds kind of, I mean, it sounds cliche a little bit, but that's kind of what I think is important. And I know it's really, really tough. I sit here and say it like it's the easiest thing in the world. And, you know, I think we're all competitive in nature, and you know, at 10 years old, I'm watching these kids, and some of them don't even understand really what hard work is, like really competing and battling. And I'm thinking of this from a, you know, I've already gone through this, and they just don't know. And it's you just got to stick with it, right? And help build them, and you'll see change, and you celebrate those little victories.
Yeah, I always say, if you think you're working your hardest, you're not. You just, I mean, there's always, but for a 10-year-old, it's like, how do you got to define that, right? And we have to define it for 15, 16, and 17-year-olds too. And so, well, Rich, man, I know you gotta run. Man, I hope we can have you on again. And I can't, I don't think Drew and I can express our gratitude towards USA Hockey. And we're so excited for the rest of this year. Hopefully you get a chance to listen to a few more of our episodes when we have some of your, you know, your compatriots on, as well as some other great guests. But we're having fun, and hopefully you enjoyed yourself today. This is a great conversation.
I did. It was a pleasure meeting you guys. I love what you guys are doing. And were you a first round pick in the men's league, or is that something, did you want me to ask you that?
Well, quick story about that. So I moved to St. Louis 19 years ago from Detroit. I had no men's league team. I was 31 years old. I just got married, and I'm like trying to find a team. And all I had to do was say, hey, I'm a guy from Detroit. And I had like 13 teams saying, hey, we need a guy. We need a guy. We need a guy.
It felt good, huh?
Like, yeah, it was the best I ever felt.
Rich, he was ranked in Missouri coming in.
I knew he would. Yeah, I knew when he said it. I was like, I think he wants me to ask him if he was drafted.
See,
I wanted to give you the layup,
hockey, man. I mean, now I'm lucky if I get asked to be drafted in a fantasy league. So
yeah, exactly.
Rich, buddy, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll be in touch. Thanks so much. Appreciate you
guys. Appreciate it. Take it easy.
Thanks, Rich.
Yep.
Well, Drew, I think we've got our live show to go head over to. Great show, and I'm excited to see how this one's received.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Listen to us on demand on Spotify, Apple, and wherever you get your podcasts.